Are there people who can live completely ingenuinely, who do not need a level of genuineness in their lives? It is very hurtful sometimes to observe certain people being genuine about painfully obvious and important issues to you and others. What is genuineness anyway, and do we really have a requirement for it? I would like to look at these ideas. I think genuineness ties in with truth. It is a state of being in touch with truth and sharing it with others. While we are talking among men, truth is subjective, but I believe a man or a bunch of people can be in touch with absolute truth through their direct experience of the world and a supernatural force that we usually know as God. Regarding direct experience, I think the way people come in touch with truth is firstly by experiencing the world physically. Seeing something happen, hearing, or feeling it is the most direct expression of truth. Another way is by observing that a particular theoretical idea or activity fits harmoniously with your experiences. Say a mathematical rule of physics may fit well to describe an observed phenomenon. Therefore it is true for what is being observed, like for example a falling acceleration equation may fit a falling object when it is inside a room, or a rule is mostly true that people change their behavior after first consuming alcohol. On a side note, I guess, truth may also be revealed through direct contact with the divine, but as I have not experienced this myself, I will not discuss this aspect at the moment. However, men then deciding to extend their experience or observed rule into other spheres or using it to predict the unknown may turn out to be untrue. For example, another person may feel or see things differently, for example colors, because the person is different. Regarding rules, something falling in strong wind or underwater will not follow the basic acceleration constant, and an experienced alcoholic will not react the same way to alcohol as a beginner. So from this we see that each man has a relation with truth, through their experience at the least, but possibly through divine contact. So the next question is, how is this communicated with other people? Say you see the sky is blue and you know that all people describe this particular color with the word blue. Saying to another that the sky is blue is being genuine, whereas saying that it is brown is ingenuine. It is what we would call a lie. Why do people lie? Maybe it is just experimentation to see what will happen, or it is to purposefully elicit a certain behavior from the other, or trying to prevent a certain behavior that would make the liar's life worse. So why don't we lie all the time if it would help our situation? Several reasons come to mind. Maybe saying the truth in a certain situation matches up perfectly with our own interests. In fact, in real life this seems to be the case generally. Lying in basic everyday functional communication like shopping, working, communication with family would mostly go against our own interests. Saying you like drinking coffee and buying it when you like and want milk instead is something one wouldn't do unless there is another factor affecting this, such as self-conflict or needing to impress another person who is a coffee fan. But that type of situation is relatively rare. If you lie about your wants, you generally do not get what you want in everyday situations. Another reason why you might choose to say the truth instead of a lie is if you are uncertain if a lie would help the situation or no. Therefore you choose to tell the truth because that is the most certain path. Saying a lie may get you in worse trouble. For example, in confrontational situations, being discovered as a liar can have worse consequences than telling an unpleasant truth. Finally, the most widely cited reason for telling the truth instead of lies is the principle of honesty, deciding to tell the truth always, no matter the consequences. It may or may not be accompanied by a belief that telling the truth always eventually leads to the best outcome. That lies may help you short term but will cause harm later. This seems to be the most rational reason for honesty. There may be others. Being honest with no reason could be called blind honesty. However, remember that whenever someone tells you their motivation for telling the truth, you cannot always be sure that they are not lying about that. So now that we know people have an interest in saying both lies and truth, is it possible to be someone who is completely ingenuine? I would say not really, because as I said, you need to be genuine to get at least the basic necessities in life. Can one be ingenuine in all the more complex parts of discourse, such as lying to your family about their future, lying to employers about your interests, activities, and experience, lying to friends and the public. Whenever you are dealing with people you meet more than once, each lie will demand a supporting construct to avoid it being revealed from contextual inconsistencies, and it will demand you to remember all your lies, to avoid others noticing inconsistencies and therefore harming your reputation. This takes a lot of effort from my experience. My attempts at lying have fallen apart more than once, as I am sure have yours. My expectation is that people have a limit as to how many lies they can maintain at one time, without making them cause a crisis. Some may choose lie maintenance as a determined pursuit full-time, and be able to handle more lies at once than others. I guess we can call them professional liars. These professional liars, I think, are the closest to completely ingenuine people there are. They can be found amongst politicians, con artists, cult leaders, and other social manipulators. We would expect lies from them because of the many times they have been caught out because of inconsistencies and hypocrisies. It has to a large part become common knowledge. However, what I think is more relevant and still surprising is seeing a lot of cases where ordinary people in your life are blatantly ingenuine. For example, they will say that a certain behavior is beneficial, while it is very easy to sense or observe for you that it is truly wrong. They will usually have a reference to a theory or to an authority that is supposed to overpower the experience-based truth that you express, and you are quite sure they experience too. They may even assert that they do not experience it, which may be hard to believe if it is a well-known truth about the human experience. They will then comply with this irrational behavior, at least so far as to avoid the accusation of hypocrisy. When not evaluated, they may break this rule or excuse it with another lie. We see a lot of that in recent times. Seeing this type of behavior is unsettling because it implies you should go against your heartfelt truth to get along with other people. The argument that it is a temporary lie or one can get away with acting when watched does not seem convincing, because if a lying paradigm takes hold, breaking it down seems like will be increasingly more difficult. A lot of unpleasantness can be experienced before the end, just from complying with the unpleasant behavior, and additional stress will come from trying to act to escape hypocrisy. The chance for hypocrisy may also decrease in the future, as the lie paradigm works to reward people who report it. Hence, the liars will increasingly be monitored, making them comply with the unpleasant behavior more and more. So why do these people lie if the consequences for them seem to look grim? Are they just unaware of the reasoning I just provided and need to be educated? Will just saying it to them help? Or is it deeper than that? We have to remember that the whole phenomenon of lying, being ingenuine, is overlaid by uncertainty. One can decide to be ingenuine for their interest or against their interest, or they may falsely perceive that it is in their interest. You cannot be fully sure if what comes from another person is a lie, or do they believe it. How strong is their conviction in the idea? One may be under the illusion that the lie is truth, or the truth is a lie. They may have in their foremost part of their mind suppressed the sense of truth from direct experience, and offloaded it to arguments coming from theory or authority that in reality conflict with the direct experience. Being ingenuine against your interests can be called self-destructive, therefore not likely somebody would do it consciously. Doing it unawares is more plausible. Perhaps they can only think short-term and respond to short-term incentives like avoiding social shame from others enforcing the same lie. If this person is otherwise quite successful in society, it is unlikely that they are generally a relatively short-term thinker. Success seems to require at least some level of long-term thinking and delayed gratification. People do tend to have impulsive behavior under stress and fear, and think in the short term. I think that is the most likely explanation in the first instance. So all we need to do is calm them down and explain the error in their ways, right? It may work sometimes, but I think it can get more difficult than that. If their direct experience truth awareness is suppressed, they most likely do not even want to admit to themselves that they are stressed or scared. If another person calls them out, it may just anger them and reinforce their determination to hold the line of the irrational ingenuine perspective, to avoid the crisis of revealing a truth that conflicts with their own actions so far. Without them getting in touch with their own truth, it could be nearly impossible for them to realize the situation through just pure argument. Remember that from their perspective it is also uncertain whether what you are saying is true or a lie, whether you yourself believe it or no. I think an argument about external evidence and facts can only go so far. Counter-arguments can always be constructed that are based on partly true or false data that is hard to prove or disprove. The key to reaching an agreement on basic issues, I think, is agreeing on truths about direct experience. We should agree on what we see, hear, and feel directly, not through linguistic or otherwise constructed concepts. Now the final question is if reaching such an agreement is always possible. Honestly, I don't know. I think it is worth trying to make this connection. I think it has the best chance of working if done respectfully to others' feelings and mixing it with theoretical arguments as well, to show that you are not disregarding the source of truth. However, I expect there could be situations where the context is so stressful that even a calm approach can provoke the other man or woman into a hostile, closed-down response. It may be that the suppression of experiential truth in their mind is not the only problem. It may be supported by peer pressure, limited communications channels, language barriers, and so on. In that case, it may be better to cut your losses and focus on other pathways to improve the situation. However, one always has to keep in mind the uncertainty, the hope that there may still be a way to reach that man or woman. So, in summary, people are unlikely to live only by lying. Long-term consistent lying is most likely going to be exposed because of the inconsistencies with reality piling up and the effort to cover them being almost impossible. People who develop lying as a craft are also increasingly not trusted if you examine their record and of those before them in similar positions. Lying in everyday life may appear more severe when it goes against basic truths that you know from experience. It may seem that the voice of the ingenuine idea is a complete liar, that is going even against their own interests. However, a self-destructive blatant lie like that can be the result of suppressing their own sense of experienced truth due to stress and fear. The best way to address this type of behavior is to reach an empathetic agreement on the basic experienced truths that we see, hear, and feel, and build the rest of the argument on that. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you have something to add.